Sign here, and we'll take care of everything, my daughter-in-law Melissa said sweetly, sliding a thick stack of papers across my kitchen table with perfectly manicured nails. The afternoon light caught her new tennis bracelet. Strange how she could afford such luxuries when she'd been crying poverty just last week, claiming she couldn't contribute to my son David's medical bills. Which nursing home had she chosen to dump me in? And did she really think I'd become too senile to read the fine print? Oh dear, I said, letting my hand shake slightly as I reached for my reading glasses. These old eyes aren't what they used to be. Which nursing home did you say this was for? Sunset Manor, she announced proudly, not bothering to hide her satisfaction. Only the best for David's mother. It has a 5-star rating, beautiful gardens, and they specialize in residents with your particular needs. My particular needs. I was 72, still teaching yoga 3 times a week, and had just returned from hiking the Appalachian Trail last month. But Melissa had been planting seeds for months, telling David I'd been forgetful, suggesting I was becoming a burden, mentioning how confused I seemed during family dinners. All lies, of course, but David was recovering from surgery and trusted his wife implicitly. Sunset Manor, I repeated slowly, pretending to struggle with the name while my mind raced with delicious irony. That sounds familiar. Is that the one on Rosewood Avenue? Yes. Melissa leaned forward eagerly. See, you do remember some things. That's wonderful, Eleanor. The doctors there will help with your condition. I suppressed a laugh. My condition. The only condition I had was being in possession of a 6-bedroom house that Melissa had been eyeing since she'd married my son 5 years ago, and an investment portfolio she didn't know the full extent of. And David agrees to this? I asked, though I knew the answer. My son was currently on enough pain medication to make rational decisions impossible, something Melissa had undoubtedly counted on. He's already signed, she said quickly. He wants what's best for you, just like I do. Once you're settled at Sunset Manor, we can sell this big house and use the money for David's recovery. It's really the sensible thing to do. Ah, there it was. The real motive behind her sudden concern for my welfare. I picked up the pen with deliberately trembling fingers. I suppose, if David thinks it's best. He does, Melissa assured me, practically glowing with anticipation. Just sign wherever you see the yellow tabs. Don't worry about reading everything. It's all standard admission paperwork. Standard admission paperwork that, if I was reading correctly from my upside-down angle, also included power of attorney documents and what looked suspiciously like a real estate transfer form. You've thought of everything, I murmured, beginning to sign with a shaky signature that bore only passing resemblance to my usual firm handwriting. Let her think I was falling apart. Let her think she'd won. Well, someone has to take charge, Melissa said, already reaching for her phone. I'll call the moving company. We can have you transferred by this weekend. This weekend? I blinked owlishly. So soon. No point in delaying. The sooner you're in proper care, the better. She was already texting, probably to the real estate agent she'd lined up to sell my house. I finished signing the papers and pushed them back across the table. I suppose I should pack. Don't worry about that. Melissa waved dismissively. Sunset Manor provides everything. Just bring some photos and personal items. We'll handle the rest of your things. Handle them right into an estate sale, no doubt. I think I'll go rest now, I said, standing slowly for effect. All this paperwork has tired me out. Of course. Melissa was already gathering the documents into her designer handbag. I'll take care of everything from here. You just relax. I shuffled out of the kitchen, maintaining my facade until I reached the stairs. Once out of sight, I straightened my spine and took the steps 2 at a time to my study. Time to make some phone calls. The first was to my lawyer, Margaret Chen. Maggie? Eleanor Whitman. Yes, we need to implement Plan B. My daughter-in-law just took the bait. She actually did it. Margaret laughed. Did she use the forged power of attorney documents? Right on schedule. She also slipped in what looked like property transfer papers. Make sure building security has her photo. I don't want her anywhere near my offices. My second call was to James Morrison, my CFO. Jim. She signed me up for Sunset Manor. Schedule an emergency board meeting for Monday morning. Make sure all 12 directors attend. Video conference is fine for those out of state. This should be interesting, Jim chuckled. Does she have any idea you own the entire Sunset Senior Living chain? Not a clue, I said, logging into my computer to check the admission system. Sure enough, there was my application, fast-tracked for immediate approval. She also doesn't know that I founded the company 20 years ago after her predecessor tried the same thing with David's father. That was a story for another day. How my late husband's first wife had tried to have him declared incompetent to steal his business. It had inspired me to create a chain of ethical senior living facilities that actually protected their residents from predatory family members. Sunset Manor was our flagship property. My third call was to Dr. Patricia Hayes, Sunset Manor's director. Patricia, I'm going to be checking in as a resident this weekend under special circumstances. Yes, it's a family situation. I need you to play along but document everything. Another one trying to dump you for your assets? Patricia sighed. This is the third time in 10 years, Eleanor. Fourth, actually. Remember my nephew in 2018? This time it's my daughter-in-law. She's getting creative with forged documents. Want me to assign you to the memory care wing for authenticity. Regular assisted living is fine. I want to see how she behaves when she thinks I'm aware but helpless. My final call was the hardest. David answered on the third ring, his voice fuzzy from medication. Mom. Everything okay? Everything's fine, sweetheart. I just wanted to hear your voice. How are you feeling? Tired. Melissa says that you're going somewhere for a while. My heart ached. My poor son, betrayed by the woman he loved while he was at his most vulnerable. Just for a little rest. You focus on getting better. Mom. I'm sorry. Melissa says it's for the best. But. Don't worry about me. I'll be fine. I love you, David. Love you too, Mom. I hung up before my anger at Melissa could bleed through. David would learn the truth soon enough. The weekend arrived faster than expected. Melissa showed up with a single suitcase she packed for me, mostly threadbare clothes, and a few photo albums she deemed acceptable. Where are all my nice things? I asked, maintaining my confused elderly act. They'll be safer in storage, she said smoothly. Now come on, the van is waiting. The ride to Sunset Manor was silent except for Melissa's occasional phone calls to real estate agents and estate sale companies. She didn't bother lowering her voice. Why would she? I was just a confused old woman who couldn't possibly understand. Yes, it's a 6-bedroom colonial in Westfield, she told one agent. Original hardwood floors, 3-car garage, pool. I'm thinking we list at $2.5 million. My house was worth at least $4 million in the current market, but pointing that out would break character. At Sunset Manor, Patricia greeted us personally, which Melissa took as a sign of the premium service rather than recognizing the director deferring to the owner. Mrs. Whitman, welcome, Patricia said warmly, playing her part perfectly. We're so pleased to have you here. Thank you, dear, I replied vaguely. Such a pretty place. Melissa handled the check-in process with indecent haste, barely glancing at the paperwork Patricia provided. If she had, she might have noticed some interesting clauses about resident rights and property protection. Here's my contact information, Melissa told Patricia. I'm her primary emergency contact and power of attorney. Of course. Patricia nodded, knowing full well the POA documents were fraudulent. We'll be in touch if there are any issues. After a perfunctory goodbye, no hug, not even a pat on the shoulder, Melissa practically sprinted for the exit. Through the window, I watched her get into her Mercedes, purchased, I noted, just 2 weeks after David's accident, and speed away, probably heading straight to my house to begin cataloging her new possessions. How long do we give her? Patricia asked, dropping the professional facade. Let's say 48 hours, I decided. Long enough for her to commit a few more felonies, but not enough to actually damage anything. Your usual suite is ready, Patricia said. I've had it set up the secure video conference system for your board meeting. My room at Sunset Manor was actually the penthouse suite I'd had built for situations exactly like this, a fully equipped apartment with office space, conference facilities, and a private entrance. The regular residents knew me as the founder who sometimes stayed on site to ensure quality care. The staff knew to be discreet. I spent the weekend monitoring Melissa's activities through the security system I'd have installed at my house years ago. She wasted no time, arriving with a moving truck Saturday morning. I watched her directing movers to load my antique furniture, my late husband's rare book collection, even my grandmother's china. Careful with that, she barked at one mover handling a Tiffany lamp. It's worth more than you make in a year. Actually, it was worth more than she'd make in a decade, but who was counting? By Sunday evening, she'd changed the locks, listed several items on high-end auction sites, and scheduled 3 different real estate agents for Monday morning. She'd also been foolish enough to use my computer to access banking websites, not realizing every keystroke was being logged. Monday morning arrived with beautiful irony. At precisely 9 a.m., as Melissa was meeting with the first real estate agent at my house, I convened the board meeting at Sunset Manor. Ladies and gentlemen, I addressed the 12 faces on the conference screen, looking nothing like the confused elderly woman Melissa had dropped off. Thank you for attending this emergency meeting. As you know, I've been admitted to our flagship facility under concerning circumstances. Eleanor, you look well for someone supposedly suffering from dementia, joked Robert Banks, our longest-serving board member. Yes, apparently I've deteriorated rapidly, I said dryly. So rapidly that I required immediate institutionalization and the liquidation of all my assets. The lawyers are standing by, Margaret Chen reported from her position as board legal counsel. We have documented evidence of elder abuse, fraud, forgery, and attempted grand theft. The police are prepared to move on your signal. Excellent. Patricia, can you share what you've observed? Patricia pulled up her notes. Mrs. Melissa Whitman presented fraudulent power of attorney documents and attempted to gain access to Eleanor's financial information. She's also violated aita by claiming to be Eleanor's medical proxy without proper documentation. In the house situation, I asked. She's committed breaking and entering, grand theft, and fraud, Margaret confirmed. The security footage is damning. We also have evidence she's been drugging your son to keep him compliant. The private investigator found receipts for prescription medications that don't match David's prescriptions. That last bit was news to me, and it turned my stomach. She's drugging David. Sedatives, Margaret confirmed. Prescribed by a doctor she's been having an affair with. We have photos and hotel receipts. The betrayal was even deeper than I thought. Poor David. All right, I said, steel in my voice. Let's end this. Margaret, please initiate legal proceedings. I want her arrested at my house. Let the real estate agents witness it. Patricia, please prepare my discharge paperwork. I'll be checking out this afternoon. With pleasure, Patricia smiled. And Margaret? Make sure David's divorce attorney gets copies of everything, especially the affair evidence. I want my son free of this woman as quickly as possible. The meeting concluded with unanimous approval for all actions. Sometimes it paid to own a senior living empire that doubled as a protection service for elderly victims of family exploitation. By noon, the news began filtering in. Melissa had been arrested in my living room, in full view of 3 real estate agents and a moving crew. The police have recovered all my belongings from the truck. The fraudulent documents have been exposed. Her lover, Dr. Richard Carney, had also been arrested for illegal prescription practices. I returned to my house that evening to find David waiting on the porch, looking more alert than he had in weeks. "Mom." He stood shakily. "I'm so sorry. I can't believe I let her. I trusted her." "Oh, sweetheart." I pulled him into a hug. "She fooled us both. The important thing is you're safe now. The police said she was poisoning me, keeping me sedated so I wouldn't question things." His voice broke. "How did you know?" "I didn't at first," I admitted. "But when she tried to put me in a nursing home I own, I realized something was very wrong. No one who truly cared about family would be so eager to lock them away." "You own Sunset Manor?" "I own all of them, darling. 43 facilities across 6 states. Started the company after your father's ex-wife tried something similar. Figured other families needed protection too." David laughed wetly. "My mother, the secret senior care mogul. I should have known you were too sharp for her schemes." "Well, I did let her think she'd won for a few days. Had to give her enough rope to hang herself." I guided him inside. "Come on. Let's get you some real food and flush the rest of those drugs out of your system." As we entered the house, my house, safe and intact, I reflected on the weekend's events. Melissa had thought she was sending me away to be forgotten in some nursing home. Instead, she'd sent me to my own corporate headquarters, where I'd orchestrated her downfall from a conference room I designed specifically for such occasions. The next morning, I received a call from Patricia. "Eleanor, we have a situation. Melissa's mother just called asking about visiting hours and payment plans. Apparently, Melissa told her family she was paying for your care out of pocket as a gesture of love." I laughed so hard I nearly spilled my coffee. "Send her the real bills. Let her see what her daughter was actually up to." "Already done." She was not pleased. "I imagine not." David joined me for breakfast, looking more like himself. "Mom, I have to ask, how many times has someone tried to have you committed?" "Including your stepmother?" "4 times. My brother tried it in 2012, a nephew in 2018, a supposed friend in 2020, and now Melissa." "And you've caught them all." "Benefits of owning the nursing homes they keep trying to stick me in. Plus, I learned long ago to document everything and trust no one with my finances except my lawyers and board members." "Will you teach me?" he asked quietly. "I don't want to be vulnerable like this again." "Of course, darling. First lesson, never sign anything while on pain medication. Second lesson, background checks are your friend. Third lesson, if someone seems too eager to help with your finances, run." He nodded, absorbing the wisdom born from years of deflecting predators disguised as family. Later that week, I stood before my board for our regular quarterly meeting, this time in person at our corporate headquarters, a modern building adjacent to Sunset Manor that Melissa had never bothered to notice. "I moved to establish the Eleanor Whitman Foundation," I announced. "A fund to help elderly victims of financial abuse by family members. We'll provide legal resources, temporary housing in our facilities, and investigative services." The motion passed unanimously. As I signed the foundation documents, I thought about all the elderly people who weren't as fortunate as I was, who didn't own the nursing homes they were dumped in, who didn't have security systems and board members and lawyers on speed dial. Melissa had tried to put me in a nursing home. She'd succeeded. She just hadn't realized she was putting me in charge.